For the past 7 years, Sony has been delivering some of the best console exclusives of the generation, delivering fantastic story-driven games with fantastic gameplay and beautiful worlds to explore. But as this generation draws to a close, we're looking at what seems to be the last first-party PS4 exclusive, Ghost of Tsushima. Coming from infamous and Sly Cooper developers Sucker Punch, this is easily their most ambitious title to date, being drastically different from anything else the studio has done before. So without further ado, let's see if Ghost of Tsushima is the final swan song the PS4 deserves. Taking part in the Japanese island of Tsushima, Ghost is set in 1274 and focuses on the Mongolian Empire takeover of the Japanese island. The game starts off with an epic battle at Commodore Beach, where around about 80 odd samurai make a failed attempt to protect the island. You play as Jin Sakai, a nobleman's son who takes part in this battle only for to be knocked down minutes into battle, being shot in the back, and within minutes it looks like Jin is pretty much done for. That's until a young woman called Yuna finds him and nurses him back to health. Upon waking up, Jin finds out that the Mongols have taken over Tsushima and his uncle has been captured, so Jin sets out with Yuna to try and build a small army to try and free his uncle, stop the Mongols and ultimately bring Tsushima back to normal. It's a dark and rather gritty tale that delivers an epic tale of vengeance and Jin's own struggle with his samurai code. It's a really enjoyable piece of story work and I look forward to actually moving the story forward, and if you're a fan of the old samurai movies then you're gonna love this. On to the gameplay now, and Ghost is a fully open world game allowing you to explore the whole of the island of Tsushima, being split up into 3 different areas that unlock as you progress through the story. Tsushima is from the get-go an absolutely beautiful world to explore with many vibrant locales and lush environments. When you first start off the game you gain access to the bottom part of the map, and this is an absolutely huge area to explore. Taking inspiration from Red Dead 2 and Breath of the Wild, the map is completely fogged out with no markers or icons like you get in typical open world games. Instead you have to explore the world to find the many activities in the world, and I really do like this approach as it doesn't bombard you with stuff to do like the Assassin's Creed games for example. Everything here feels natural and very organic, and dare I say it, one of the best open world games of the generation. For as beautiful as this world is, it's also a very bloody and dangerous one as combat is a big part of the game. Feeling a bit of a mix of old school Assassin's Creed, Batman Arkham games mixed with the precision timing of the Dark Souls and Neo games, combat is a brutal dance. You can choose how you want to tackle each combat encounter. You can go in like a samurai and go in loud, or you can play it like a ghost and go in against your samurai code by sneaking up and killing enemies from behind, or mix between the two. If you want to play as a samurai, you can call out your enemies for a duel, and these are very enjoyable intense moments. As the enemy comes in front of you, you have to hold the triangle button and watch your enemy until he's about to strike, and then when he does you let go of the triangle button and Jin kills him in a single blow. With upgrades you can take on multiple enemies one after another, and it's such a simple idea that works so well and is so well executed. When getting into combat you are nearly all the time surrounded, and when enemies attack you can dodge out the way or parry their attacks and counter them to deliver a devastating attack. Combat encounters are fast and do require you to think on your feet as there's many different stances for you to use, and you have to swap them on the fly for the different types of enemies you'll face. There's only one real problem with the combat, and that is the camera, as it has a bit of a mind of its own. It wouldn't be too bad if you could lock onto enemies, but you can't. It's not game breaking, but it can lead to a few deaths early on. But if you don't want to go in all swords clashing, you can sneak through the enemy camps, stabbing and slicing necks, and the stealth is actually pretty great. There's a few extra tools for stealth like your bow and little charms that can distract enemies, but the enemy's AI isn't really that clever and you can easily avoid them. As you start the game, you only really have your sword to start off with and that's about it, but as you go through the game's main missions, you gain access to a pretty big range of tools to dispatch your foes. Throughout the game, you're given new skills and items to keep combat feeling fresh. That's not a typical leveling up system here, but you do gain rep from completing missions, and this builds up your standing in Tsushima, and you gain skill points to unlock new moves, abilities, and various other things to help out on your journey. It's a great way of progression, and I really like it. To complete the main game, just doing the main missions and a few of the side stuff, then you're talking a good 20 odd hours of content here. But if you want to do and see everything the game has to offer, it's easily upwards of 40, which is impressive. The open world of Tsushima is filled with things to do, and most of it is your standard open world fluff like enemy camps, jumping challenges that lead to shrines, a load of collectibles, as well as hot springs that can increase your health, and bamboo challenges that boost your resolve. There's a huge amount of side missions to do as well, with well over 50 of them to do. They're nothing more than little fetch quests or defeating a load of enemies, but they're fun and do expand the world quite a bit, especially your companions. We also have some special mythical missions which are very interesting indeed, and follow around some of the spiritual history of the island, and also gives you some cool boss battles, and in turn some great items and moves to boot. On to the presentation now, and Ghost, from the footage you can see, is an absolutely beautiful title, and it looks even better on the big screen, featuring a stunning looking world that feels incredibly organic and lifelike, with trees swaying and leaves flying in the distance. There's a time when an orange shine of the sun shines through the trees, and it's totally jaw-dropping, and the various areas of Tsushima all have their own charm and look wonderful. Characters also look pretty sharp, with plenty of detail on Jin and his allies. Though the animation is pretty good, there are a few graphical itches and a few dodgy animations here and there, like you get in your typical open world game, but it's nowhere near as often as you see in like a typical Ubisoft title, but it's one thing that could disappear with subsequent patches. The game runs at 1080p on the base PS4 at 30 FPS, and for the most part it runs well, with only a few drops to the mid-20s in some areas and in some cutscenes. On the Pro, we have two graphical options, with a higher resolution mode and a more stable frame rate mode. Both options run at 30 FPS, but it's the resolution that's the difference. On the high resolution mode it's 3200 by 1800, whilst the stable frame rate mode is at 1080p. It's a nice selection to have both these options here, and the frame rate in both modes are pretty great, but it'll be interesting to see how and if Sucker Punch will update the game with the PS5 enhancements. One thing that does feel incredibly next gen is its loading. Yes, for next generation of consoles there seems to be a lot of talk about incredibly reduced or abolished loading screens once and for all, but Ghost really does impress with its loading. Whilst open world games take a good couple of minutes to load, Ghost only takes a matter of seconds, like about 20 or 25 seconds to load the game, to literally a couple of seconds to reload a save after death or fast travel. It's incredibly impressive how Sucker Punch has achieved this. Ghost also sounds impeccable, with a wonderful soundtrack that feels incredibly authentic, with some wonderful calm music whilst exploring, to the bang of the drums and combat. It's actually one of the best soundtracks I've heard this year. The voice acting is also pretty top notch too, featuring both an English and Japanese voice acting option. Gladly, the English voice acting is fantastic, and the cast really did do a stellar job here. The Japanese voice acting certainly feels more authentic, but can be a bit off due to the lip sync of the characters being set to English, but either voice option you choose, you are in for a great treat. Conclusion time now, and Ghost of Tsushima has took me by surprise by just how wonderful it is, featuring a very enjoyable and gripping story that is perfect for any fan of samurai cinema, and also featuring a cast of very likeable characters. Exploration and combat is top notch, feeling like an old school Assassin's Creed game, but much more refined. Fighting enemies is a blast and immensely satisfying, and the world of Tsushima is an absolutely beautiful one and easily one of the best looking games I've seen. And traversal and exploration is done brilliantly, allowing you to explore the game how you want. There's a few technical issues here and there, but overall it stands side by side with some of the best like Horizon Zero Dawn and Uncharted 4 as one of the best PS4 exclusives out there, and a fantastic swan song to the PS4. So with that, I'm giving Ghost of Tsushima a 9.5 out of 10 with the title of amazing. As always, thank you for watching my review, like, rate and subscribe, and until next time, happy gaming, bye.